Welcome to another tech review you didn't know you needed. Today we will be taking a quick look at the Gamevice Flex. First, we will cover some of the unique features and setup. Next, we will test a variety of native games, cloud streaming, and some retro emulation. And finally, we'll do some size comparison and wrap up with some final thoughts. They had some very good engineering going into their clip system, or this Flex system that allows you to use this game controller with almost any case. So let's take a look at that. I just recently changed cases, so we're gonna see how we're gonna refit it so it actually clips on properly and is snug. So you have this guide, and then you just use this to figure out your width. And I'm gonna say, after playing with this a little bit, the right side is gonna clip in just fine. That's where the lightning port is. The left side, I like it snugger than maybe what the guide says, but we can play around with it and I'll show you. So we'll start with this. And you want tighter, I think, than looser. So just keep that in mind. So maybe the right is going to be R15A. That seems like a good fit. R15A for the right. And it should be the same for the left, and we'll probably start with that and see how that goes. It seems tighter for sure. Oh, because the camera bump will go over here. So we got to avoid the camera bump. So yes, R15A and L30 on the left. So we might go down a size to see how it fits and how much it wiggles, but I'll show you that here in a second. So it's really quite simple. You just go in and use the numbers to first find the box, and then inside the box you use the other code to figure the right adapter. So we're gonna do the right side first. So R15A is in box 3. I find the right half a little bit hard to get out, or actually the left half. So I use needle nose pliers and put some electrical tape on it to prevent scratching, and just kind of squeeze gently and pull, and it'll come out. But we'll try the left side first, which is pretty easy by hand, if I remember correctly. So just get your fingernail underneath it, lift it a little bit, and just pull, and that piece comes right out. That is R15A, so it's the one we need already. So I'm gonna put that back. That is the exact same adapter as my last case. So just snap it back in. Make sure both sides are firmly in and it's flush. We should be good. In fact, we will probably just try it as is. I forget what's on this side. Use my pliers here, like I was talking about. This is L30. Yeah, so it's actually exactly what I needed. So I already got them out of the box. So it was this guide that it fit in. So we'll go ahead and try what's already there and see how it fits before I go swapping things around. Might need to go smaller on the left, but we'll see. All right, so just slide this into the lightning port on this side. This is a little bit rubber bandy, stretchy on the back, and it clips in. So here's what I'm going to talk about the wiggle. So the right side is pretty stable. Actually, this case fits really good. Exactly the guide works. So yeah, I'm using the guide pieces of plastic, the little spacers, and it feels good. There's not much movement, so I like to test the wiggle a little bit to see if the width is firmly, snugly in there, and it seems like it's perfect. And this case is great. I'll put a link into the description about which case I'm using. So here I'm using the iPhone 14 Pro Max 1 terabyte. I just recently got this phone, and yeah, I'm not super excited about new phones anymore. I only upgrade about once every 4 years, but it was definitely time. So when I got the latest and greatest iPhone, so it seems to fit perfectly fine with this case. So let's take a look at the back, and you'll see that there's almost no flex. It fits really well. I'm really impressed with this case and this controller. And if you see on the back, I can show you a little bit better. There's this nice kind of gap where the camera bump sits, so it never really touches it. It actually hovers a little bit above it, so there's nothing pressing against the camera bump, and leaves plenty of space. There's kind of a gap here behind on the back with these little standoffs that it could kind of sit on sometimes, but it really doesn't really need that for support. So overall, just the way things are cut out here, super well designed for almost any iPhone model. So I like how this collapses to a pretty nice compact device that you can travel with. It's pretty easy to open. You pull these clips outward and then just lift this little plate and it just comes across, and it's a little bit stretchy, so it will accommodate almost any size case. And then to put it back together, you just kind of slide these halves together and then push down on this plate and you're good. It also has a handy lightning port for pass-through charging and a headphone jack. One thing I like about telescoping controllers is just the overall balance and feel in your hands. It's very Switch-like. It's definitely more compact than having to carry a clip and like an Xbox controller. But you kind of lose on the grip and the feel, I think. Like these nubs don't really stick out very far, so you don't really have a whole lot of place to kind of grip on it. So you end up resting either on your pinkies or just putting more pressure on the back with your hands. So there's that. Some people, who are used to with the standard Switch Joy-Cons are probably going to be just right at home with this. But for me, I like to use third-party Joy-Cons like Binbox that are much bigger, and this feels smaller than that. So it's somewhere in between like a Joy-Con and maybe a Hori Split Pad Pro or Binbox on a Switch. So just think of that as far as feel and size goes. So this is the GameViceLive app. It's completely worthless. The only thing I would ever use this for is firmware updates. But as far as launching games and discovering games, it really doesn't even launch them. It just takes you to the App Store, so it just feels like advertising. I just don't see the point of this at all. For Xbox game streaming, of course, you just set it up with, just use your browser. You use Safari, and that's basically it. So the only thing I would use this for is firmware updates. So we'll just do a quick check here, and it looks like we're still on 1.0 and nothing has changed. Okay, that's really it for the app. I think Backbone and the other ones have much better apps than this, maybe the Razer Kishi, but this one, not for the app, and I don't really care that much about the app. It's not a big deal to me. So let's go ahead and try a few games to see how well it runs. Oh, and I also just recently got Apple Arcade with my phone plan, and so I've been trying out a bunch of different games. Analog, digital pads work fine. The digital pads, a little mushy, a little too much give, I feel like. I would like a little less dead zone or less travel for my D-pad, but it's serviceable. The analog stick feels pretty good. A little on the smaller side, so feel like it's more like a Joy-Con than a Xbox controller. So you can see it works fine in Diablo Immortal. I know this is kind of a controversial game, but if you play casually, it's a fine Diablo game. I mean, I don't really care about in-game for Diablo games.
targets in sight.
Friendly hunter-killer drone deployed. UAV online.
Enemy contact!
Next, let's try some streaming, cloud streaming. We're using Geforce Now, playing some Destiny 2. And finally, some Halo Infinite on Game Pass with Xbox, with XCloud. Finally, we have a little bit of emulation using RetroArch, which I sideloaded. This is not a jailbroken phone, so it's just a regular phone, but I have a developer account, and I was able to sideload RetroArch and try a bunch of different emulation. Pretty much everything up to Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 1 emulate just fine. So I was also looking for some accessories, mainly a hard case to travel with potentially, like throw in a backpack for a longer trip. And I've looked at a few different cases. There was one actually was designed for the Gamevice, but it did not fit, at least not the Flex, because the Flex is actually wider than the regular Gamevice, I believe. But I found this 8-bit Go generic kind of controller case that will fit almost anything like a DualShock or a Xbox controller, but it also fits the Gamevice just fine. Now, it does have quite a bit of play. It's pretty big, but it does fit and it will protect your analog sticks and things from getting crushed. So it works. I'll have a link also of this in the description. So another option that you should consider is one of these very affordable mobile phone Xbox controller phone clips. So this one is by Power A. It has 2 hinges, as you can see. So you have one that you can adjust the angle on, and the other one to kind of adjust how forward it is to shift the weight and the balance, which I like better than the single hinge foldable clips. It's only $15, so very cheap. And if you already have an Xbox controller, it's a great investment. Overall, I love the Xbox controller and how it feels and how well it's supported, and the big grips and the feel of the thumbsticks are all great. It's still my favorite controller. So from a pure usability standpoint, I still prefer this over the Gamevice, but you're again trading usability for portability. So, it's how it always is. So final thoughts and conclusion. At $110, the Gamevice sure is very pricey, but I do think a lot of thoughtful design went into this controller. It is the only one with this flexible design that will accommodate almost any case. You can tell a fair amount of R&D went into this. The overall build quality feels good and compatibility is great, and worked fine with basically everything I threw at it. I felt the D-pad could be improved though, and also me personally I would like a larger version with full-size thumbsticks and grips. Also, I think I'm coming to grips that these old eyes have issues gaming on these smaller screens, and this is on the max size iPhone. I think realistically, I wouldn't want to go smaller than a Steam Deck for extended gaming sessions. But for some retro emulation, it is quite a nice and fine alternative to buying a retro handheld like a Retroid Pocket or an Anberneck device. From a pure value and usability perspective, just grab a phone clip, especially if you already own an Xbox controller. But if you are set on getting a telescopic controller for your iPhone, this is the one to beat. It's around the same price as the Backbone and Razer Kishi V2. And if you're like me, in that as soon as you get a new iPhone, it gets a glass screen protector and a case and never comes out, then this is the only solution out there. If you can't use it while still in the case, then I'm just not going to be bothered to use it at all. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll catch you in the next one.